Right. So to kick off, so guys, look, welcome everyone to the inside the My Personal Football Coach Virtual Academy. Proud to have and really great to have Scott Chickleday here. Scott, ex Tottenham Hotspur and QPR Academy coach and individual technical forward coach, and also Glen Hicks, very experienced ex Tottenham Hotspur Academy, joining us tonight. Thanks guys for joining us. Appreciate it. So basically, what we're going to do, guys, is yeah, cheers, guys. So basically, the idea tonight is just give people a bit of an idea what goes on behind the scenes at the inside in the virtual academy, and then we can take some questions and answers and give the guys, obviously Scott and Glen, fortunate enough they delivered last time in the last set, and obviously they're going to be delivering in the next one as well. Can give you guys a little bit of insight and feedback into what was like. So I'm just going to share my screen now a second and make sure I'm ready to go here. It's been 1 second. Yeah. So just obviously tonight I'm just going to go through a little bit about the inside the academy. So look, this next series of the virtual academy, we've got an unbelievable cast of player developers. Obviously, Glen, obviously with his long history working at Tottenham Hotspur across the age groups. Scott, obviously, as an attacking forward coach, obviously, all the work is done with work constantly with pros. Obviously, also we've got Albert Capellas, who's the ex-head of youth at Barcelona. So I know very well, good friend of mine. Really fortunate he's agreed to us. That top developer, like, he's going to come in. You know, he's worked at, obviously, head of youth at Barcelona, worked at Dortmund as assistant coach. He's worked all around the world. Top coach. Gives a bit of idea of that, insight into that, his background and his journey, and what they look for at Barcelona. Romeo Jozak, also another good friend of mine, ex-head of the technical director of Croatia and head of academy at Dynamo Zagreb. Probably would just talk about Dynamo Zagreb there, but in terms of like academies, you know, they got the world record in terms of most players in one World Cup squad with the Croatian squad last time. Also, excuse me, always producing the amount of Champions League and professional footballers. So always high in the tables. Also got Steve Salas, who's our mindset set and leadership mentor. Steve obviously works a lot with the English FA, the Scottish FA. Currently one of the assistant coaches at AFC Wimbledon. Top developer, experienced in education and football. So he's going to be delivering some really interesting classroom sessions. Joe Sutton as well. Joe's ex-head of foundation phase recruitment at Arsenal, and he's currently a scout at Man United. He's going to be delivering a classroom session on what scouts look for in terms of giving a bit of insight into that. Obviously, a lot of aspiring pro young players in the academy. Charlie Quigley, who's currently the S&C specialist at Middlesbrough SC's academy. Middlesbrough is another top academy. Charlie, obviously, really fortunate he's jumped on board, but he's going to be doing the S&C stuff. And then Marink Redick, who's an ex-Ajax academy coach. So Ajax, obviously, I talk about a lot. Ajax, one of the best academies in the world, if not the best academy in the world, in my opinion, in terms of producing top quality Champions League technical players. So that's like a real all-star cast. I'm really proud, actually. We've managed to assemble all of these guys in one place and get them on here. So to give you a bit of an idea about the Virtual Academy, if you don't know, obviously, the difference with this is obviously the My Personal Football Coach app really was originally a technical training app, but really with this academy, we tried to really give it a rounded technical, tactical mindset and physical as well. So we try and give the players an experience what they would experience in a real academy. In terms of the academy, you know, there's many different things that are going on there. You know, you're going to improve their technique. It's really about how to develop players on the pitch and off the pitch as well. Obviously, a lot of stuff that Steve's doing and Glen's going to be doing in the classrooms. Obviously, bringing together the best youth developers in the world from lots of different academies, lots of different footballing cultures, but from the best footballing cultures as well. And understanding about yourself and how you can improve yourself, but also improve yourself within the team. And that, you know, that's what My Personal Football Coach was originally for, was to try and give players world-class coaching wherever they are in the world. And I think that with the Virtual Academy, we've really taken that to the next level and given players the taste of that. And you know, a complete player development plan would really try and develop the whole player there, all those assets, and really to understand what a mindset is and how that could affect the individual and improve them. In terms of what it looks like in practice, obviously this is an ideal supplement for a team training. So this is, so, if you're going to team, even if you're locked down, you're not on lockdown, this is supposed to supplement what you do already. So you get, obviously, on a Monday morning, you get one full technical session with me. That's exclusive technical session that I deliver, which is like a warm-up. It's got some I've got a skill combo and then a technical challenge. And then midweek Wednesday, you have a detailed tutorial from one of the best youth developers, one of those guys in the cast there you saw. That's a pre-recorded video that goes live, and you can watch it whenever you like. And then on Saturday or Sunday on the weekend around 4 p.m. GMT, so that's really set for UK and USA specifically. It's this 4 p.m. in English time is about 9 a.m. on the East Coast, about 7 a.m. on the West Coast. So we're trying to reach as many players as possible. That's a live classroom session, which would be one of those guys, or with Glen or myself. And obviously that's pre-recorded as well. So if you can make it, it's good. If you can't make it, always watch it back. And obviously, like within those as well, once a month I do feedback sessions as well from the players, from their uploads on the app, in terms of what they're doing and how effective they've been. But that's what I really would say. This is like a supplement. So whether if you are in lockdown, for example, and you haven't got anything to do, then this really could, and you can do this, and you can do it a lot. But if once we're going back to training, this should sit aside you. If you're particularly in a grassroots setup, this will support you in taking your training to the next level, and accessing some world-class training. So the outcomes we're looking for in terms of after the virtual academy is real boosting confidence, more explosive on the ball, a lot of stuff we're doing, in terms of the technical challenges, more accurate with their ball control, able to put skills into practice in game situations. Parents are able to understand how to support their children, and obviously the ability to play at a higher level and experience what high level training is about. And we get lots of feedback from the first one, fantastic feedback, and everyone's really enjoyed it and been able to really engage it, and we try to think about how we can take it.
I'm really enjoying my Personal Football Coach Virtual Academy. It's really fun. The mindset is really good. It helps boost your confidence, handle your emotions and other things. I really like the skills because it's a lot faster than what you do sometimes, and it helps build up your technique, and it's a lot of stuff that you can use in the matches. Thank you.
So the key is really that you can pick it up whenever you want to go. It's pre-recorded. If you can't make it that week, you can come back to it. If you can make a classroom session, great. If you can't, not to worry. You can obviously, it's pre-recorded. You can come back to that. With this one as well, what we're doing is we've got a special offer on in terms of you can cancel any time you like after the first month, just like a 3-month contract. But if you're not happy with it, you try the first month. If you don't like it, it's happy to cancel. And obviously, if you want to have a particular payment plan, you can contact myself or Alice, and we can look into doing a specific payment plan for you guys. Before we get to any questions as well, I just want to add as well, we've added this year as well. We started last one towards the end. We've also now got once a month, we've got parent Q&As, parent question and answer sessions with one myself, and Glen's jumped in and won, and Steve Salas jumped in and won as well. So just a chance for parents to ask questions and give feedback, and we can support parents as well if they've got aspiring players. And also we've added a tribe, which is basically like a social network, a community page rather, for parents, where you can come on, ask questions, and I'll be available, and some of the other guys will be available as well constantly, so we can chat and you can meet and talk to. That's a couple of things we've added for the parents there, which is really important. So in terms of supporting you guys, in terms of supporting you guys, support your children. So that's written all in. That's pretty much in the world what it's about. Like I said, it's like designed as a supplement to support players, give them a taste, to improve them. Players will get better with this program, no matter what, no doubt. And it's about Scotty, what was your experience in the working on it, mate?
Yeah, it's been great. Obviously, I was involved from the start with. Once you come with the plan of the setup and everything, and I think it's worked really well. I've been trying to work on different aspects of forward play. We started off with obviously ball striking, and the next topics are coming around explosive movements in and around the box, different types of movements. We worked on some Phil Foden movement, some Fabio Silva movement, Kevin De Bruyne and Harry Kane movement on the edge of the box. And I think it's the detail is there. So there's a lot of detail that we put into it. So everything's broken down from the first step of that movement right up until the follow through on a shot. So the information is there, and it's easily transferable to work on. So I try and put it as clear as we can, so it can be done on your own, or it can be done obviously with a partner or with a parent, whoever's doing it with you. But I've had good feedback. I've had sort of personal messages from some of the students that have been on it of how it's helped them and the knowledge that they're gaining from it. So I'm really enjoying it at the minute, and I'm looking forward to seeing how far Saul takes it, and the success that we can have from it.
Nice one, Scotty. Glenn, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I've watched Scotty stuff as well, and so just from me looking in as well, when I come on board, the first of all, the thing I'd like to say is the variety of education they're getting is first class. So I've obviously watched Steve Salas's class and stuff like that as well, and I think before I speak specifically about what I've delivered, I would say, knowing from working in an academy and working at grassroots football, the accessibility to the level of quality detail in the finishing and stuff that Scott's done, or the defending ones that I've gone into before. And it's more about trying to give young players, because obviously we're all coaches, so we're used to being on the pitch interacting. The biggest challenge I've found as a coach, but hopefully it's got across because we've seen it in the players, is trying to develop concepts and ideas, more develop the way you're practicing. So I know, Saul, you go on a lot about the dynamic ball mastery and the speed, the intensity, and there's a lot of consistency with what you say. And I think that's what I've seen across the board. There's a consistent message with more how you're practicing rather than just what you're practicing. And it's that drilling into the details and picking up really key concepts that I think is stuff that young people can take away. Because one thing I've seen as well from the stuff with Steve, especially because it's quite deep, some of the mindset stuff, the kids are incredibly capable of picking up these concepts. They're very, very bright. And the feedback and actually seeing development from first class with Steve to the last class, for example, I think it's making a big impact. And I think that's to do with the way it's put across as well, if I'm honest.
What's your thoughts, Glen? Because we chatted about this a little bit a couple of weeks ago, or when we chatted last. Because you work in a college program as well, where online learning has been utilised during lockdown. Talking about how do you see that? Do you still how much of an importance do you still see it having in place, basically, as we're going forward and things returning to normal?
Honestly, so I think it's absolutely essential. And I think if you look at the modern day footballer, they've got a very entrepreneurial spirit as well. And every fine margin that these young players can get, or even young pros are doing it. If they're getting a personal trainer, a nutritionist, a mindset coach, whatever advantage they can gain, they do, and they will. And I think, our young people are technologized. They live in screens. If they're not watching the telly, they're watching the laptop or they're on their phone. I think we need, as coaches, we need to embrace that. But can we steer them towards doing something more productive when they're looking in their screen? So rather than just going on Twitter or Instagram, I don't even know what all the socials are, logging into Virtual Academy, or even if they've recorded themselves, and if this encourages them to record their own technique and then analyze it back, because there's some wonderful tools out there to analyze themselves, or not getting too much analytical, but just watching themselves. Sometimes just watching yourself, you see yourself differently. And I think it's a wonderful thing. And I think, up and down academies in the country, I think they actually do use it as well. And there's a lot of individual analysis. I believe in academies there's too much team and tactical analysis, if I'm totally honest. And I really believe that when you watch a game of football, so we all know, it normally comes down, there's this obsession with tactics, and it comes down to individual errors or individual excellence. And that's whether you're physically excellent, technically or tactically. It normally comes back to somewhere an individual player. And this could be the game changer for a lot of young players. I really do believe that. And I think it's absolutely essential.
Lovely. Scotty, what's your thoughts on technology and coaching? So that's you use a lot with your, filming a lot of your sessions and things like that. What sort of place is it? How important is it in the modern coaching sphere?
I think it's massively important, and I'll go back to what Glenn just said. I think self-evaluation, self-assessment is key in football. And again, everyone's looking at devices. My son does it. He's got an iPad. If it isn't that, it's Fortnite or it's something else. So something like this virtual academy is completely different. But I just think the way things are going is online. Most people are now working remotely as well from home. Obviously, what's happened, and they probably will continue to. And I do think that more people will try and follow what you've done, what we're creating here. But I do think it's key, and if it's taken properly and understood properly, then I think it could be a massive learning tool, like what Glen said and like what you've constantly said, Saul. And it could be a way forward. You know, watching one of our sessions on here, we're putting them so proofful so that they can be replicated easy. And you haven't got to go onto a massive football pitch to replicate it. It can be used on small areas, especially a lot of the ball mastery stuff. Some of the finishing stuff, yes, you do need a goal. But you can put 2 jumpers down and use that as a goal. It's just mainly with me, it's target, make sure we're hitting the target. So I think something like this is invaluable, and I do think that it is a game changer, and I do think that it's the way forward. I'm not saying that outdoor activity has to stop and coaching and everything's now got to be remotely online, but I'm just saying if you continue to do what you're doing with your grassroots coaches and with your clubs and everything else, and you can have this in your back pocket to do in your own time, I think that's where you're going to reap the benefits from it.
Want to give people a little taste of what you're going to be delivering on this next phase of, because just to be clarified, all the content is going to be new and fresh that all the boys are going to be delivering.
So, with the next 3 topics.
Yeah.
So I'm working on patterns of movement. This one. So the first pattern of movement is Phil Foden's movement. I don't know. The goal that he scored against Arsenal, when he scored Liverpool. He scored quite a few goals where he will pick up the ball, run directly at the defender rather than running into the space first, and then he'll cut out into the space and getting a shot off within 2 to 3 steps before a defender can react. That's the first one. So we call it in and out movement. The second one I worked on is movement I see a lot from a young player that I watched a lot in Portugal, and now he's over here playing in the Premier League, which is Fabio Silva at Wolves. He comes from deep, uses a lot of zigzag movements. So he'll do 4 or 5 changes of direction before he'll then attack the near post to get onto a cross. So he's constantly going to the ball, away from the ball, to the ball, away from the ball. And at the last minute, he'll go away, and then it'll be an explosive turn into an area where he'll pick up the ball to get on the end of a cross with a touch and a finish or a first-time finish. And the last one is a false run with a spin-off movement, is where you will make a direct run to go across the front of the defender, but then spin off and come around the back of him to get on the end of a cutback cross with a first-time finish. So they're the 3 different sorts of movement. And like I said, in the category that I'm working with, movement is key. And it is all over: defenders, midfielders, attackers, wingers, number 10s. Movement is key. So we're just trying to add that aspect to it where, it's good to get in the right areas to finish a cross off or to get a shot off, but also it's about creating that space with good movement, good positive explosive movement where we can off balance defenders, maybe take them out of one area, and then we can move into that area where we can be effective.
Decent. But Glenn, what about you? Give people a little taste of what's in
store the next 3.
What we're going to be delivering. That's it.
Yeah. So look, I believe when you're building an individual, and this is all about building the individual, this whole program is how can we build a better individual? And I think we've got 4 R's. The last three sessions I've done was about regaining the ball, and I didn't say defending too much. It was just actually the individual responsibilities about regaining the ball. And we spoke about being a brighter, more creative defender, and how can you retrieve the ball, not just with tackles, but with clever interceptions, good positioning. A lot of the stuff you do, Saul, is about retaining the ball, a lot of dynamic ball mastery and being comfortable on the ball in any situation, 2 feet, all types of creative moves. The stuff that Scotty's doing there is a lot of it is about, yes, the movement to get on the ball, to receive it, but the releasing of the ball, a lot of ball striking. So I'm going to focus the next 3 weeks on receiving the other eye. Not so much bits of movement to get on the ball, but the actual individual specifics of how to receive the ball correctly, which again, I think it's quite, even when you're watching the Premier League, there's a lot of shortcomings on individual players. So we're looking a lot in the first 3 blocks on building the basics or the essentials, being a 2-footed footballer, knowing when to receive on the first foot, when on the second foot. The then that will slowly progress in week 2 into receiving on the move, because you see a lot of drills and sessions being done where people are standing still. But it's really, 90% of the time you're going to receive the ball on the move. So we'll go into receiving the ball on the move and in the air. And then the last week is, if I'm honest, purely about creativity. It's about dealing with that difficult ball and needing improvisation, audacity, the stuff that makes us all go well, like Bergkamp pulling the ball out of the air off his toes, or someone doing an amazing Cruyff turn first time out of the air or something. So that's what we're going to be looking at, mate. We're going to be digging in a little bit deeper into receiving, but going through the stages of building the basics to the absolute brilliance like the Masters. So that's what's in store for the next 3 weeks, mate.
Top draw. So we've got a few questions that people ask. Brendan's saying, is any sessions live in the moment, or are they all pre-recorded? So Brendan, basically, as discussed, the Saturday session's live at 4 p.m. on the GMT on a Saturday or Sunday. The rest are all pre-recorded, but then that's recorded as well, and that's uploaded as well, basically. So then you can watch it at your pleasure. You get around it. Joshua says, we're based in Oz, so the time difference is challenging. Just confirming all content is available at any stage. So yes, Joshua, all content's available whenever you like. You have basically when you access it, you have a library of all your different sessions. Obviously, they get Monday and Wednesday, and then Saturday you'll get updated with those ones that are on there on your library. Austin asks, what age range is the academy targeting? So Austin, the idea of this academy is there's something for everybody on there. So whether you're a 9 or an 18, you'll be able to get some quality outcomes on this type of training. So like, for instance, my ball mastery, if you did the same practice you did a 9 and 18-year-old, you could do the same practice, just maybe the outcome would be slightly different. So we try to have something for everyone on that, basically. Excuse me. Here's a question for Arnold. I'll open this up to you guys. So thanks for your great work. I'm coaching my 9-year-old son and his team. Quick question: is there any harm or any medical reason why we shouldn't increase our training from 90 to 120 minutes? We like to give the boys extra 30 minutes of free play or soccer. Glen, what do you reckon about that
one? I think we've got to be in danger. I think we've got to be careful that we're not in danger of sports science and body clocks killing football. I think yes, you've got to limit it, but I think it's individualized. But I actually think young people don't play enough football, so when they don't practice enough. When you think how we used to all play football and the stories of footballers from the stories of players that played in the 60s and 70s, they'd finish and they'd go and play out on the streets. Or Wayne Rooney talks about his debut, where he made his debut at 16, Saul, and then he went out and had a kickabout on the streets with his mates, where he grew up. So it's a difficult one. I think everyone's got to look at, is your son going through a growth spurt? Are they looking tired? Is it affecting them adversely? If it is, if in your judgment they look injured or they're getting back pains, hip pains, it depends what age they're at as well. So I think especially going through like 12 to 16, you know what it's like. So when there's a hell of a lot of development, I'd say be a lot more careful. But, I don't think there's any harm in young people playing 2 hours a day and little breaks in between and playing more than that. So there's no definite answer there. I can't give you a definite answer, Saul, but hopefully that makes sense, what I was saying there. But I think young people need to play more, if I'm honest.
Scotty, what do you reckon?
I kind of agree with Glenn. I just think there's no, as long as it's managed, obviously we want to go full whack, just killing someone for 2 hours or beasting them for 2 hours. But look, it's the same with Glenn. When I was younger, I'd finish school, I'd be out playing football for 3 or 4 hours. I wouldn't come home until my mum called me. But I don't think there's no, especially at a young age, I think the more time on the ball, the more touches you get in, the more practice you're going to get, and the more improvements you're going to see. But I just think as long as it's managed, and I don't see a problem with that whatsoever. Like I said, all I can see from that is just improvement.
And it's about intensity, isn't it, Saul?
Yeah. No, I say, what are you doing 90 minutes for? Do 2 hours from you. I agree with the boys. Is that most academies are doing more than 90 minutes anyway. Ajax do sessions of like something like 2 hours, 20 minutes now. It's the longest session I've ever seen. Like you say, just be aware of the boys, like the loading, the intensity, your recoveries. Do you know what I mean? You'll notice if you play games for like 2 hours, you'll notice that the intensity drops. You get really tired. So, you vary what you're doing. I'm agreement. I don't think we do enough anyway. I think we do. But boys and girls don't play enough football. As you say, street football. You're going to do that. It's a great addition. So 3 thumbs up there. But if they get injured, don't come see Glenn. It's his fault. I'm joking. Right.
But also, Just to add to that as well, though, so I do quite a lot with my son, and he normally tells me when he's tired. He'll normally get to a stage where he'll just say, "Dad, can we stop now?" And that could be an hour and a half. So the players are normally honest. You know, they normally say, like, I'm done now. And you can normally see if they're fatiguing and stuff. You just think, right, come on, let's call it now.
Yeah, that's exactly. The coach can see that, right? And maybe parents see it as well. Maybe they go in for training that day. Coach, question from Brinjar, forgive the pronunciation. How about a kid that do not have English as a native language? Do you think they can benefit for participating, or is it a large drawback? Look, definitely would benefit if you speak English, but like especially stuff that myself, Glen, and Scotty are doing, it's all video based. It's all demo based. You know, players can see what you can do, and I don't think that's very difficult, especially my stuff. You know, you demo it. It's all high quality video and tutorials. So whether your English is limited, you don't have it, you can still watch it, see it, and be able to replicate it. What do you reckon, Scotty?
I agree. Obviously, some of the details you may miss, you might not be able to pick up on, but like I said, everything's demoed, everything's broken down, and normally, if I'm talking about foot placement and body shape, it's normally demonstrated through visual stuff anyway. So most of it's visual.
Glenn?
Yeah, no, I agree, mate. What they can't pick up maybe in the audios or the written, I think, I'd like to think that the videos are very self-explanatory and quite clear. So,
and I've just had Alice just messaged me, who's the head of operations and child protection. She said actually we had a boy who didn't speak English in the last one, and his English improved in the classroom sessions, apparently. So it's interesting. Here's a question from Brendan. When it comes to strength training, should a 12-year-old be lifting weights or just body exercises? Anyone want to deal with that one?
Me personally, so I don't think it's about age. I think it's, are they prepubescent or are they a long way into puberty? Because I think, I'm not a sports science expert, but I think that's what they gauge it. So a young person that's gone through, let's say it's a boy or girl, but if a young boy's gone through puberty very early and he's a 12-year-old that actually physically is further down the line in puberty, like 14, 15-year-old, I know I can speak for the club that I was at. We did have 12-year-olds doing additional work on their thighs, but they were structurally ready for it. But if you've got that 12-year-old that's prepubescent and body doesn't need it, you don't need it at all because the systems ain't developed yet anyway, then I would say an absolute no. And it's actually quite tragic. I've seen a parent before doing the old parachute thing, like resistance work and aerobic work, pulling a 7-year-old pulling along a parachute, and it's like their aerobic systems ain't even fully developed yet. So I wouldn't say it's about age, Saul. It's more about where are they? Are they post-puberty or like deep into puberty, or are they pre-puberty? I think that would determine it from a science point of view. I think
it's interesting because my natural instinct would say, oh, no way, mate. It was a 12-year-old, that's far too young. But I suppose that's what you say, in terms of it's the individual, isn't it? Like say, it depends on, how developed they are. It's interesting. Scotty, anything on that?
Yeah,
got your boy down at gym yet?
Do you know what? I agree with Glenn, but I'm literally gobsmacked some of the stuff that I see because obviously my son's under 8, so he's got his little Instagram account set up because they all like to put little pictures and clips up of them. So there's a little about 50 to 60 grassroots and academy players from each age that have got them, and I see 6, 7-year-olds pulling 10k weights up hills.
No way.
Like dragging them up.
It's tragic.
Tied to their back. Yeah, tied to bungee straps around a tree, trying to sprint. And I look at it, and I agree with Glenn. Like when you get to 12, that sort of age, then like you do get someone that's maturation. They physically develop quicker. But I do see it a lot in the younger years, and so many times I have to stop myself commenting on these videos because it's a parent doing it. It's not a coach; it's the parent doing it, and it's. Yeah, I'm anti that. I think that is because obviously you could be hampering growth and stuff like that, physical development. But I agree with Glenn. When you get older, like I said, I remember being in school under 12s, under 13s, and some of the boys that I played with were like men. So when you get to that sort of thing, then yeah, obviously they're physically developing quicker. But when it comes to the younger age groups, I think there's so much obsession now of trying to overdevelop and hyperdevelop. What I mean by hyperdevelop is speed up development from parents. They focus a lot on he's got to be stronger, he's got to be quicker. So let's see the best athletic coach, let's see the best sprint coach, let's see the best PT. What do we need to do? Get him on weights, build his legs up, bulk him up, and you think, well, he's 7 years old. give them a chance. But I do, honestly, weekly I see it, and I do feel sorry for some of these boys, because I do feel that too much of it is going to be overuse, and probably by the time they get to the age that this guy is talking about here, 12, they will be burning out.
So, can I just make one more point on that? Going back to our childhoods, look, I think, we get a lot of boys arrive at our college program, for example, that have been released from clubs or just been around the grassroots or semi-pro football, and they can't push or pull their own body weight. So what I would say is, in terms of going to the gym, no, like 100%, it wouldn't be about pushing weights. But, if a young kid was doing push-ups on his own body weight or sit-ups or pulling, if you think back, another thing that children don't do nowadays that we did, so was climb. We was always climbing. We was always pulling our own body weight up, whether we're climbing up trees or walls or fences. And I'm not telling all children to go out climbing now, but we was in general a lot stronger and naturally fit, just because of the way we played out on the streets. We never used to sit on a sofa in front of an iPad. Yeah. So you're physically already more literate and more stronger naturally. And I would say, look, no. If you had to compromise time with the ball to do weights, I would always say, I'm a purist with it, the ball. Because the stuff that you're not going to get with the ball at 12, you're going to run out of time and it's going to be too late. So I would always say, if there was a decision to make, mate, more time on the ball, less in the gym, and let that come a little bit later as they develop. So.
Yeah, interesting. Right, a question from Betty. What are the chances of getting in a Premier League academy team from another country? So, Betty, I've got a bit of experience about this, because I get asked this question a lot. It's difficult now, particularly after Brexit. If you haven't got an English passport or right to remain in the country, you're not allowed to play for academies in this country. There's lots of rules in there, and so you're going to struggle. So you need to get yourself a passport or be in this country and have right to remain. For give an example, a player I was working with, his dad was American boy. Dad was working and living in this country. Got the boy signed at QPR, and then the Home Office turned it away. This was like a year before COVID kicked in, because that was the brand new rules. So they're really strict now, saying, in terms of you're either a player or a coach, you don't have your passport's not in check, or at the time it was EU, or they said no. And now after Brexit, if you don't have an English passport, it's really, really difficult. And obviously, as you're getting older, as the players get older and they get to like work permit age, it's even more difficult in terms of depending what country you come from and stuff like that. So I hope that answers your question. A lot of other European countries are a lot easier, like Italy. And had a client of mine who came from Kenya, went there and got a work permit. So you have to investigate. But in England, it's very difficult in the Premier League Academy. So apologies about that. Any other questions? Last one, guys. So look, just this is what's great privilege having Glen and Scott here. In terms of being able to deliver some interesting, share their knowledge and their experience in the game. One more question here. When it comes to structuring your trainings per week, how many strength trainings should you have per week, and how many football trainings per week for a 14-year-old boy? Go on, Glen, have a go on that.
Again, honestly, so I can't. I don't think there's no set answer. You would have to see the boy. What are their physical needs? Are they going for a growth spurt? Are they a little bit wobbly and need to be stabilised with a bit of strengthening work? Have they just gone for a growth spurt? So actually, you need to do more stretching. So yoga would probably be more helpful. I think, especially at that age, so you know what it's like. I call, in the academies, we call the 12 to 16s youth development phase. I call it the time of chaos and change and difficulty. It's like, we know growing up, like Scott said there, you'll be 4 foot nothing playing against a 6 foot lad. So I don't think there's any specific answer. I really don't. It depends where that individual is. And I would say, if it's physical development, you need to get specialist advice from the sports science guys, because us, we're just football coaches, and then it has to be individualised to your son. How tall are they? Do you know what I mean? Where are they at in their physical development? That would be the biggest question that they have to answer and then dictate a plan for them, if I'm honest.
Scotty, what about you? That number 9, you having him hanging off the staircase, the banisters, and pulling on his ankles?
No, I totally agree with what Glenn said, mate. I think an even balance. If you're going to do some of the strength stuff, do it. But I think of football all day long for me. But you are going to need to do it at some stage. But you've got to get that balance right.
Yeah, I think Glenn made that great point, didn't he? It's about that individual, like puberty training. When you grow, you have that growth spurt. We've all seen it. It can be an unbelievable. You can be the best player in the academy, 9, 10, 11, 12, and that growth spurt comes. That growth spurt doesn't come. Do you know what I mean? And it's a different kettle of fish, isn't it? So then you got, and that's really maybe when you got to look at adding stuff to your program.
And the thing is, Saul, there's always stories, mate. We had Matt Upson come and do a talk with our college boys the other day, and we all know Matty Upson's gone on to play for England. But at 16, he was very small. But by 18, 19, he was 6'2". And then there's the stories about Tyrone Mings at 16 got released from Southampton because they said he was too small to be a centre-back. Now, Tyrone Mings, he's gone through that. You know, them players are called, they're like bamboo trees. You know, they're quite small. All of a sudden, they grow quickly. And I think we see it all the time, don't we? So Scott McTominay, apparently at Manchester United at 15, he was very small, 5'8". And when we went up to Manchester United and played him, they told us that story. And then by 16, 17, it secured his pro contract because he'd gone through this unbelievable amount of growth. So if they had just said, we have to do a weights program, you know, sometimes you've got to wait for people to develop. And I think that's one of the biggest skills in academy football, full stop, is just getting the timing right on when the players get released even, or when you do the strength training. And because there's still a lot more developing in young people between 16 and 21. I really believe that.
Yeah, and I think there's also danger of people doing too much training in the gym, too much strength training, particularly when I'm working with, like, you know, those forward players who they want to bulk up and get a bit more size. But I think they lose a little bit of flexibility, a little bit of agility, a little bit of movement. You know, they'll be able to, you know, that to turn and twist and that sort of thing. They become more powerful and stronger, but they lose that. Maybe they take away from the game what they had originally in a sort of ambition to try, you know, get stronger and fit into the English game, particularly. Yeah. Well, here's a question: what is the recommended time commitment to see the benefits from the virtual academy, considering ongoing team and club academy practices? Great question. I think, for instance, my technical stuff, it's the short, sharp technical sessions, maybe 20-minute sessions, to try and do that daily. And then on Wednesday, you'll get the recorded session, which will have some basically some challenges. So you watch that. It's about 20 minutes. You have the technical challenges. So you can add that to your daily program, maybe having or to work 2 or 3 times a week. And then you have the classroom session. So in answer to your question, you're looking, you know, ideally, you want to be doing something like 20 minutes a day anyway of extra work, you know, in terms of really supplement your team training. So this sort of fits in nicely to that. And then it could be my session, or might be Scotty's one, or Glen's one, or might be the classroom as well on the weekend. But it's meant to fit in there. And sometimes, like I said, it's a lot. Sometimes less is more. So understanding, you know, if you're working more effectively, working smarter, you don't have to work for so long, because, you know, we're honing in on really what you got to work on, and you can really focus on that and maybe get those outcomes. There's a question from Emil. What are you looking for in a young player? Scott, you want to answer that one?
First 2 things I look for in a young player is hunger and desire. I think you've got to have the hunger and the desire as well to do well. You've got to want to do football if it's what you want to do. And it's like I said, having that hunger and that desire to succeed and learn, take on board information, listen to the information, put that information into practice. I work with a lot of players where, you know, you say something and they don't do it. And the ones that do take stuff on board, you can see the development through it. But like I said, for me, hunger and desire is key. I think that's a given. Hard work also is a given in football. And then, like I said, it's just understanding what we're saying, and then being able to put that into your own game.
Glenn, what do you thought?
Yeah, no, I'm with Scott in terms of, like, as a coach. So if I put 2 heads on, what is the fundamental difference usually? Like, if I'm generalising between scouts. So if I speak for our academy, like, what gets boys in the building through what a scout sees on a Sunday. So if you picture now going and watch a grassroots game, so we know what it's like. You know, physicality will stand out and technical quality. So if a kid dribbles the whole team and scores a wonderful goal, that's good. It's going to impress a scout. It's going to get them in a club. If a kid physically dominates the game, or a combination of both, it's going to get them in. But the stuff that the scouts are blind to, so they haven't seen them train. I wonder why scouts don't go and watch people train, because you learn a lot about young people. You haven't seen them, like Scott said, you know, what is their hunger and desire like when it's a wet Tuesday? I know, so can he do it on a rainy night on Tuesday? But what's their desire like, and things like that. And I think what gets players in the academy is the physical and technical. I believe what keeps them there, and especially keeps them developing, knowing how intense it is and goes the full journey, is the stuff that Scott was talking about. How much do you really love the game? So you'll be looking for that. How good of a learner are you? Are you really keen to learn? Are you open to both criticism and praise? So as a coach, especially an experienced coach, I'd always be looking for the personal and psychological stuff. So if I'm honest, knowing that long term, that's the stuff that whatever potential talent they have got, it's going to bring out that full potential.
Yeah, interesting. This question from Winston. Ideally, you want both, but if you had to choose between a good coach or a good team, what would you get? What would you have? Glenn, we'll try that.
Sorry, I lost you a bit there, Saul.
So if you had to choose between a good coach or a good team, which one would you go for? If you're a parent, I suppose.
I'd always, and I'm saying this as a parent, as someone who's got my daughter's got a really good swimming teacher, but she hasn't always had a really good swimming coach. She had a dreadful experience in the swimming pool, and there was loads of other swimmers. And I know swimming's more of an individual thing, but she hated swimming for 6 months, absolutely hated it. Got a wonderful teacher or coach that engaged with her and, actually learnt who she was and how she learnt. And now she's got a lifelong love affair with swimming. I think she'll always swim. She's a wonderful swimmer. And I would say, if you're lucky enough to get a good coach that is really developing you as an individual, and your game's coming on left foot, right foot, but you're in like a B team that gets pumped every week or suffers, loses, but you succeed in terms of developing, I think that whispering talent normally comes through long term anyway, Saul, because why the team's suffering. Look, no academy ever signs a team, and no academy team ever gets signed pro. So even in academies, the team is not the most important thing. It's about developing individuals for the first team. So I would say the coach always above the team, but the team can bring your levels up. The team can definitely bring your competency levels up. So hopefully you develop your skills and you go on to a better team anyway. That's the natural process.
Scotty?
Glenn, the last bit that Glenn said was what I was going to add to it. I would say coach all day long, because I think if a good coach, you're going to develop. But just what Glenn said at the end, if you're playing in a good team, obviously you're playing with good players. So you're going to learn things from them as well. But if I had my choice, I would choose coach all day long, because I think individually you'll get more. But like Glenn said, sometimes you might have a fantastic coach in a team that's not doing very well. So it could be disheartening, could be frustrating, because obviously all kids want to win. All parents want their teams to win. But if you're looking at it in the long game, I think it would be a coach over team to me. But I do get what Glenn said, and I agree with that. You're going to learn from playing with better players, and it's hard, because if you are a good player, you want to win things. But also you get it a lot where someone is a good player, but they want to play with their friends. So it's a bit of a cross. But I always say, when people ask me if they've got a choice of academies, I always say, go to the one that you feel's got the best coaching.
Interesting. So here's a question from Goodwin. What skills do you look for in a kid, dribbling or shooting? Glenn, ever go with that?
So I got what skill, something that jumped out again. Sorry, mate.
What skills do you look for in a kid, dribbling or shooting?
A bit of everything. First thing is attitude on the ball. It's always, so I think between 6 and 11, it's not so much, it's more the courage and the intent to try things on the ball. So the first thing is the attitude. What is the young person on the ball trying? So if they're a passer of the ball, great. What type of passes are they trying? Are they trying a sideways, safe kind of no risk pass, or have they tried the audacious, didn't quite work? And again, whether it's ball striking is their quality, dribbling is their quality, or they're a wonderful passer like Xavi, I think the more experienced I become, the more we're looking at their attitude behind it. How brave were they? When they made a mistake, did they try it again, or did they go into their shell? So not anything is specifically really. Always looking for all the technical attributes that a player needs. But again, it's the attitude behind how they're using their skill and technique.
Chris from Joshua. Let's move. Do you want to add to that, Scott? So gone in.
Oh, you don't really need to ask me that one, do you? Shooting all day long.
Wrong question. Wrong coach. Here's a question. My son gets sent to street dance, sometimes boxing by the academy. What's the use of this? So, Scotty, as a man, I know you like a bit of street dance. What's your thoughts on that one?
Oh, I could cut a rug in my time. So I think that doing other sports apart from football is invaluable for mechanics, movements, different sort of movements. Hand-to-eye coordination, dance, obviously, you're going to be more flexible, maybe more agile and stuff like that. I remember a boy, Sylvester Jasper, when I was at QPR. He's in the first team at Fulham now. He done gymnastics. So he was very good gymnast, but he was also a fantastic footballer. But you could tell that he was good at gymnastics just by the way he moved, the way his foot patterns was, his balance, his agility. So for me, I encourage sort of mine to do all sports, so not just football, try all sports, because I just think it all adds to mobility, like I said, movement, foot patterns, everything. So I would encourage that. I think that's great that he's doing other stuff apart from football.
Interesting. This question, nice one from Betty. As a former academy coach, what would you do if a child was struggling with confidence? This is for you, Glenn. What do you reckon?
Again, yeah. So it's I always keep saying bring it back to the individual, but that's the way I coach. If I've got a group of 30 young people or 10 young people or half a dozen, I always individualize it. So obviously you've got little techniques and strategies within the session, whether it's, I think one of the biggest skills a coach has got, which when I watch a lot of coaches, especially at grassroots, and I'm not judging anyone, I've been a grassroots coach myself, I've had to learn this myself, is it's very easy to catch a child not doing something well. So let's say Scotty loves shooting, Scotty has a bad shot. Anyone can say, oh, what a terrible shot, hit the target. But somewhere in there'll be a thing you can catch a child being good. So that kid so an affirmation and acknowledgement of something they are doing good, I think is one of the biggest confidence builders. So if a young person's missed the target 5 times out of 5, right, just ain't hit the target. If, like what Scotty was saying, if their movement was good, pick up on that. Catch them being good with their movement. So if they got in a good goal-scoring position and they've had a magnificent first touch, they've already done 2 things really good. But then he missed the target. Pick up on the 2 good things. Try and catch your young child, whether you're a coach or a parent, catch them being good at stuff. And I think that's constantly boosting their confidence. So that would be one of the main tips, if I'm honest, Saul.
Lovely. Well done. So last question here. Let's find out. Just Asif says, how important is it having good players around you? Also, do you think Bruyne would stand out in League 2? Scotty?
I think Bruyne would stand out in the conference. And I'm honest with you. It's very important, I think, to have good players around you. It ain't the be-all and end-all. But if you've got good players around you, then it goes back to the question that we had earlier, that it's going to obviously make you a better player. It's going to challenge you more as well. But I think if you get to De Bruyne's level, you could probably play in any league in the world, if I'm honest with you. And he's played in a couple already. But I think it's good to play with good players around you because they might be on the same wavelength as you. You see things early, they might see them things early as well. So if it comes to putting a pass into space, they're going to be on that same page. So, yeah, I think it's good. It's a good thing.
It's a quick question for you, Glenn. Just quickly, Brendan. American and Australian game is very different to the technical European and South American. What's better at younger age, technical training or scrimmaging games?
Again, it's just my personal opinion. The thing is that one of the benefits of this virtual academy is, and I know you've had this opinion before. So when you can spend a long time at a football club, so I was at Spurs Academy for 12 years, and I'm still working at Spurs now. For 12 years, you can become institutionalized and a bit quixotic in your ideas in terms of this is the only way. Having Dynamo Zagreb and all these other influences from football, there's a common thing for all of them. I think we're all in agreement that between 6 and 11, especially in them golden years of learning, technique, individual. Don't obsess about games. Definitely don't talk too much about strategies and we're going to play 3-2-1. I just think that's all a load of nonsense. If you just said to your players, go 1v1 all over the pitch, and that's your tactical plan for the rest of the season. When your player's got the ball, you mark him. Can you be better than him at defending? Can you be better at attacking? Again, so it will come down to one thing. The player with the best defending qualities or retrieving the ball qualities and the best attacking qualities with the receiving movement will always come out on top. So I would say, especially with young children, individualize it and keep it down to technique. Can you be a 1v1 dominant player? And then obviously the older you get, the more you start introducing small tactics, 3v2s, 3v3s, ending up at the 11v11 game that the men play and the women play, the adults play. And we've got to, I think parents and coaches should always remember, Saul, that youth football is a completely different game, in my opinion, in terms of the way we teach it to adult football.
100%. And I just concur with that, Glenn, briefly before he finishes that. Not saying don't play games, just in small sizes, 1v1, 2v2, 3v3s, 4v4s. That's where you get your interesting outcomes from anyway. But then just smash out of that technique and have a good balance in everything you do, and to avoid those big formatted games where players get lost in them. And like Scotty, we were talking about earlier, innit? Your experiences with your boy playing those big formatted games maybe is not as effective.
Yeah, 100%.
Lovely. Listen, guys. Quickly, last one from Betty. Then go on, Betty. Last one. Does size matter in English football? Just see that sort of thing today from Emerald Smith Rowe. Said Chelsea rejected him because he was too small. So I can say, yeah, still does matter in a lot of sports. What do you guys think? Briefly, in the 30 seconds outro. Scotty?
I think it does with some clubs and it doesn't with some other clubs. The same with managers. I think some managers, if you like, maybe a Sam Allardyce will want a big 6'4" strong centre midfielder, and then you might get someone like Guardiola who might be happy with a 5'8" centre midfielder who's very technical, very good on the ball, makes things happen, opens doors, can break lines. So I think it's obviously down to the manager and academy manager, I suppose, what sort of, you know, type of player that they look for. But yeah, I still do think it's a big thing that size does matter.
Okay.
Not from my opinion, it doesn't, but
yeah.
I think in general.
Yeah.
Again, so someone that I was about 5'9" at 15, and I ended up with 6'3", big old lump, big, and I actually got released from Spurs when I was 12 because I got told I was too small. I wasn't good enough when I look back. There was a lot of better players than me playing for London and England and whatever else. But again, I was a late developer through puberty and whatever else, and I ended up being bigger than I wanted to be, like my granddad, 6'3", 6'4". But I would say, look, all footballers come in different shapes and sizes. From 6'7" Peter Crouch, who maximised his physical ability by scoring the record amount of Premier League goals. I think he's got 50 headed Premier League goals and no one else has. But whether you're him or Lionel Messi, Saul, the three things that need to be big, and this is where I say this especially to the small diminutive players. If your courage on the ball is big enough, if your heart and determination to succeed is big enough, and then your talent, whatever your talent is. So if you're going to be a Kevin De Bruyne expert at everything in midfield or a Messi creator and goal scorer, maximise your talent. And if them three things are big enough, Saul, you know, the player's good enough, mate. So that would be my opinion.
Fantastic. What a great way to finish. Look, cheers, guys. Scotty, Glenn, appreciate your time. Thanks very much. Everyone, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Remember, listen, so look, this Monday week, we go live with the Virtual Academy, and you want to hear more from these guys, myself, and some of the other best academy coaches in the world. Hopefully, we'll see you there. And we're gonna put this up live so you can rewatch it as well on the website. Any other questions, feel free to email me, Saul at MyPersonalFootballCoach.com. And we hope we'll see you soon on the next phase of the Virtual Academy and the parent Q&As, and also in the tribe, the new community page as well. Thanks, guys. Have a great night, and wherever you are in the world, have a good one. Take care.
Cheers, guys. Take care.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.
See ya.
Bye.